Hello, and welcome to KRAD COVID Readings. I'm Keith R.A. DeCandido, your humble host who is reading his writing in order to help you deal with the coronavirus craziness. One of my favorite shows back in the 1990s were, well, two shows actually, were HERCULES the Legendary Journeys and its spin-off, XENA WARRIOR PRINCESS. I got the opportunity to write in that universe as some of my earliest tie-in work when I wrote. There was also another spin-off called Young Hercules, which only lasted one season on the Fox Kids network, but featured Hercules as a teenager and younger versions of Aeolus and Jason, as well as several of the same bad guys, including Ares, Discord, and Strife. I wrote two Young Hercules novels, Chiron's Warriors and the Ares Alliance, and then in 2001, right as XENA was winding down on television, Ace Books put together The Further Adventures of XENA Warrior Princess, a short story anthology that was edited by Martin H. Greenberg, the great anthologist, which was 15 original stories taking place in the universe of XENA. Lots of really cool people, including Diane Duane, Jennifer Roberson, Josepha Sherman, Greg Cox, Esther Friesner, Robin Wayne Bailey, Lynn McConchie, Mary Morgan, Gary Brombeck and Lucy Snyder, Jody Lynn Nye, Jay Cameron, David Bischoff, Tim Wagner and Russell Davis, and Melissa Good, who actually wrote for the TV show and was also a very well-regarded fanfic writer of XENA, who then also later wrote for the show as well. And then me also. I have a story in there which is called Recurring Character, and where is it? There it is. Okay, and I will read it for you now. It had been a normal day at Miltiades' tavern, which was just the way he liked it. Within an hour of his opening, most of the regulars had come in. The ale flowed freely from the smooth wooden goblets into the patrons' gullets. The sturdy bar continued to withstand the onslaught of spilled drinks and clumsy drinkers. The two barmaids served the tables quickly and efficiently. The regulars knew not to mess with the pretty young women, and if anyone did, they were shown the door. A giant stag's head hung from the far wall, a gift from a local nobleman who appreciated the service Miltiades provided to the community. Taborn, one of the regulars, spilled his ale laughing at one of his own jokes. As Miltiades wiped down that part of the bar, he smiled, extremely happy with life. Yes, it was a perfectly normal day, the latest in a series of them. Until the stranger walked in. "Drinks for everyone! On me!" said the stranger, a young man in leather armor, carrying a broadsword on a hip scabbard. A ragged cheer came up from the assembled customers. Miltiades did not share in that cheer. An ex-soldier himself, Miltiades knew that it was never a positive sign for a tavern owner to have a soldier in an expansive mood around. Such people tended to break furniture and annoy barmaids. Miltiades hadn't had a brawl since the winter solstice, and he hoped to keep that streak going. Miltiades refilled everyone's drink before pouring an ale for the soldier. "What's the occasion, kid?" "Quite simple," the kid said with a grin. "My name is Roxas, but everyone calls me Rocky. Remember that name, barkeep, because soon it will be known throughout Greece as the name of the man who killed XENA." Taborn, who was seated next to the soldier, turned, his eyes wide. "The warrior princess?" Rocky snorted. "No, XENA the goat herder. Of course, warrior princess." Miltiades sighed. Generally, the customer was always right, but he couldn't let this young idiot go off and make an ass of himself. "Take my advice, kid. Go home and forget about XENA." "Are you kidding? I spent years honing my skills. This is my chance to prove myself against the greatest warrior of our age." "All you'll prove is that she is the greatest warrior of our age, and you're just some dumb kid who ain't got the brains to realize she earned that reputation for a reason." Rocky barked a derisive laugh. "What do you know? You're just a barkeep." "You know how many times I've heard that XENA was dead? Killed by Callisto in battle, killed by barbarians who hit her with a log, killed by Ares, crucified by the Romans, and you know what? It's bunk. All of it. Because XENA's unstoppable. I ought to know." "And how's that?" Rocky asked with a sneer. Miltiades sighed. "'Cause I tried. I used to live in a nice, quiet little village on the Parthian Peninsula. Then one day this Darfus fella shows up and starts attacking folks in their homes. His boss was XENA. A bunch of us survived, barely, and decided to fight back. We didn't do too badly against Darfus, but then XENA stepped in, mowed us down before she could blink. She gave me this. Miltiades lifted his shirt to expose the scar on the right side of his belly. When it was all over, the village was a pile of charred wood, and only 6 of us were still alive. I didn't have any family, thank the gods, but I had nowhere to live. I'd done fairly well as a soldier against Xena, at least the ways I survived, which put me one up on most of the others. So I looked for work. Finally hooked up with an arms dealer, name of Mezentius. It was a pretty good gig, mostly protecting shipments and the like. Went fine until Xena showed up. I'd heard rumors that she'd become some kind of hero, and they turned out to be true. She busted up a scam Mezentius had going. I tried fighting her at one point and got knocked silly for my trouble. By the time I woke up, Mezentius was dead, Xena was long gone, and I was stuck. Working for Mezentius gave me some good contacts, though. Managed to score some work for King Xerxes, fighting some filthy rebels. Went pretty decently, till Xena showed up. She helped the rebels out and deposed Xerxes. She gave me this when I tried to stop her. Miltiades pointed to the scar on his cheek. With Xerxes gone, I was out of work again. And working for a king who was overthrown by a bunch of rebels didn't exactly beef up my resume. I finally got work with a warlord named Nestor. That was real sweet. Until the big moron went after the Golden Hind. I thought they were extinct. Rocky sounded like he didn't believe Miltiades. There was one left. Unfortunately, she was being protected by Xena, right? Rocky said snidely. No, Hercules, actually, and that friend of his, Aeolus. But after Nestor went and got himself killed, who should show up to help Hercules out but Xena? I was starting to think she had it in for me personally. Fine, I figured. I'd return the favor. I ran up to her, determined to take her out. Took her all of 5 seconds to take me out. She didn't even recognize me. That did it. I was fed up. It was time to get serious. By now, the entire tavern had gone quiet. Miltiades' customers were used to the barkeep listening to their stories. A long-winded tale like this was cause for notice. Besides, people always like to hear stories about Xena. Pouring fresh drinks for everyone sitting at the bar, Miltiades went on. I spent the next month or so in intensive training. I went over Xena's fighting style in my head. I was pretty sure I knew her weak spot. And that was the next time I saw her would be the last. A fellow named Draco was building up an army. He and Xena used to run together, and they clashed up in Amphipolis after she went good. I figured sooner or later Xena would come after him, so I joined his troop. And it paid off. Xena tried to stop a slave trading scheme of his. I was thrilled. Finally, I thought, I get some of my own back. A bunch of us confronted her and that Amazon sidekick of hers outside a temple. This was it, my big moment. After she'd hounded me for years, I was going to kill her. Everyone in the tavern held their breath, even Rocky. She took me out without breaking a sweat. And you know what the worst thing was? She still didn't recognize me. We'd clashed 4 times, and she had no idea who I was. She just kicked at my leg and sprained it, and I went down in a heap. By the time my leg healed, Xena was long gone. At that point, I made a solemn vow. Rocky leaned forward. That you wouldn't rest until you hunted Xena down and destroyed her once and for all? Miltiades rolled his eyes. Do I look stupid? No, I swore I'd put as much distance between me and Xena as humanly possible. Blinking in shock, Rocky said, But, didn't you want to revenge for all the indignities she'd lain at your feet? No, I mostly wanted to keep my feet from getting any more indignities laid at them. So I went to Rome. The Roman army's always looking for folks, and I was right. Got a job as a mercenary, put down some Germans and Gauls. Good, honest, steady work. Nobody had even heard of Xena. It was great, until I got promoted. What's wrong with being promoted? Rocky asked. Well, nothing, I thought. But they put me on prison guard detail in Rome itself. Prison guard? Rocky said with a curl of his lip. How's that a promotion? It was in Rome. Any job in Rome is a big step up from anything outside. One day, I come on duty, and they've got some Gaul fella in the prison, and Xena! Couldn't believe it. Not only had Xena come to Rome, but Caesar himself captured her. They were planning to put her in the arena against the gladiators. I figured, great, all my problems solved. Then the Gaul tells me there's something I should know about this woman, meaning Xena, of course. I had no idea what he could tell me that I didn't already know, except it turned out she had a key. Next thing I knew, I woke up in one of the cells with a broken nose, and Xena was long gone. That was the straw that broke my back. I couldn't get away from her. No matter what I did, no matter where I went, I got beat up by Xena. It had to stop. I quit the guard and came back home to Greece. I'd saved enough to buy this place, and you know what? I'm better off. If I'd done this 3 years ago, I wouldn't have all these scars and my nose wouldn't look like this. So trust me, kid. No matter what you do, Xena will stop you. Caesar, Callisto, Draco, none of them could. Neither could I. Worst of all, she didn't even remember who I was each time she took me down. She won't remember you, either. There was silence in Miltiades' tavern. Everyone looked at Rocky. Before anyone could say anything, a woman ran into the tavern. "Run for your lives! Bandits!" Then she ran out again. Miltiades heard horses at full gallop and voices crying out, probably the bandits in question. Then he heard something else. Something he'd hoped never to hear again. I can't do Xena's... You know Xena's battle cry. Just pretend you just heard it. 4.5 seconds later, a man in once brightly colored clothes went flying through the front wall of the tavern. He was quickly followed by another through the side wall. The patrons and barmaids started making for the exit. Miltiades, though, couldn't move. He was in shock. "Come on!" one of the bandits said. "Let's get her!" Within a few seconds, both bandits, plus 3 of their buddies, came crashing through the walls. Then she came in. Xena. She had that same smile on her face as when she'd beat him up in the past. The smile stayed on her face as she walloped the bandits into insensibility. And right into one of the supports for the tavern structure. As the tavern collapsed on his head, Miltiades cried out, "By the gods, not again!" When he came to, Miltiades saw Taborn standing over him, along with another regular, Greekox. "Are you all right?" Greekox asked. "What happened?" Xena drove off the bandits," Taborn said. "You should have seen it," Greekox said. "Her moves were incredible." Miltiades looked around. He lay on the ground about 20 paces from his tavern, or what was left of his tavern. What was once a fine structure was now a pile of kindling. Shattered goblets, broken bits of bar, and the caved-in head of the stag lay strewn about the ground. Greekox carried on. "She actually let the bandits get away because she saw you were trapped. She pulled you out of there, made sure you were all right, and only then did she go back after them. It was amazing!" "She saved me?" Miltiades asked, stunned. He felt something on his forehead. Reaching up, he felt a bandage. "Well, of course," Taborn said. "I mean, she's a hero, right?" With that, the pair went off, probably to find another tavern to get drunk in. No doubt the other regulars were doing likewise. As Miltiades struggled to his feet, he was surprised to see Rocky approaching him. Miltiades assumed the kid would have been off chasing Xena by now. "Barkeep," he said, "I just wanted to thank you. I have to admit, I didn't really believe most of what you said. I mean, come on, there's no way Xena could have gotten out of being captured by Romans. That's just crazy. But when I saw her tear up your place, I realized that you were right. There's no way I'd even hurt her, much less kill her." Despite everything, Miltiades was glad. He didn't want this dumb kid to turn out like himself. Glad to hear it. "Of course," Rocky continued, "I'm not sure what to do with my life now. I spent the last 3 years training myself to stop Xena. Now that I'm not doing it..." His voice trailed off. Miltiades looked at the remains of his tavern. "You any good at construction, kid?" Miltiades' tavern was harmed during the production of this motion picture. I'm not sure how available this book is anymore. It came out in 2001, but you might be able to track it down if you're a fan of Xena. There's lots of really good stories, including one by the late Josephus Sherman, which is from the point of view of Xena's horse. Thank you again for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Please check me out online at DeCandido.net, my blog at DeCandido.wordpress.com, my Patreon at patreon.com/KRAD, my pop culture ramblings at Tor.com, and all over elsewhere. Thank you very much, and please stay safe.